In my recent run of Mario Sunshine without the default nozzle, I noticed a consistent issue in the script writing process. The run's difficulty is extremely inconsistent, making it hard to dedicate equal time to each level. Some levels were completely unaffected, whereas others were nearly hour-long grinds. It makes for a rather choppy viewing experience, and while it doesn't stop me from loving challenge runs, it does make me want to find a solution to this issue I see throughout a majority of them. Here's my idea. Let's split the game up into chunks and come up with unique challenges for each one. What do I mean by this? Well, let me show you an example from my favorite game of all time, Super Mario Galaxy. The first normal star in the game is Dino Piranha. The challenge for this level is to defeat no enemies aside from Dino Piranha himself. The next star's challenge is to avoid using any pull stars, and the one after that is to not use any grounded jumps. Get the idea? This makes each and every level have unique potential to be interesting in its own way. As long as the rules are simple enough to be explained in a quick sentence, this can lead to a fast-paced and constantly engaging video where you never know what will happen next, even if you're familiar with the game. It even acts as a fun way to show off obscure glitches and tricks since you can mold the challenge around requiring it. Have I sold you on the idea? If so, stick around, because in part 1 I'll be completing 20 of the 120 stars in Mario Galaxy with unique mini challenges. I do still have a few general rules to go over though. I'm playing as Luigi, and while most of these challenges are unaffected by playing as Mario, some of them definitely are. I won't be combining more than 2 rules into a single star, and I'll try to avoid reusing challenges more than 2 or 3 times per video. Repetition is inevitable, but just like normal challenge runs, there's still lots of variety within the same rule set. With the boring ass intro out of the way, let's jump into a new era of challenge runs. The playthrough begins with Grand Star Rescue, but I'm not actually going to start the run until Dino Piranha. We can and will select this mission again once we unlock the gate, but Grand Star Rescue would be a weird start to the video. Dino Piranha must be beaten pacifist aside from Dino Piranha himself. At first everything is fine, but once we get to this planet we're seemingly stuck. You're supposed to defeat this piranha plant to grow a vine, but thankfully a simple triple jump can pull us to the next planet's gravity. But that next planet is another issue since both the main route and this extra pipe ask us to kill piranha plants. Just do another triple jump from atop this chomp spawner thing and the rest of the star is a piece of cake. A snack of cosmic proportions has to be beaten without pull stars, and the first planet is the hardest part. It can be really awkward to gauge where the launch star actually is, but eventually I found just the right spot to jump from. The final planet is the only other pull star section, and this has to be the most pathetic skip in any Mario game. Literally just long jump to the star and you got it. The final main star in Good Egg is King Caliente's Battle Fleet, and this is where the difficulty starts to pick up. We have to beat this one without grounded jumps, which refer to any jumps performed while on the ground, meaning that wall jumps and enemy bounces are still fair game. The first planet is once again the hardest. There are some Octogoombas to bounce off, but we don't have a way to get on top of them without jumping, so they're basically useless. Eventually, I discovered that by walking off this ledge behind the building, I could spin in the air and wall jump off the back to reach the launch star, and the 2 beach planets after were a breeze. The next planet is really annoying. I kept getting sniped by bullet bills as I tried to look for ledges to walk off, and I kept messing up the Octogoomba bounces too. Eventually, I scaled the battlefield and moved on to the airships. After killing some octopi, I climbed onto this skinny ledge here. This allowed me to spin over to the stairs, and the Octogoombas made climbing them a piece of cake. I then defeated the boss and used a lava boost to grab the star. This whole mission took about 10 minutes, but it was honestly pretty fun to figure out. Let's move on to Honeyhive, starting with B. Luigi Takes Flight. This mission has to be beaten without the bee mushroom, and to do that we have to learn a speedrun trick called Honeyhive Skip. By climbing to the top of the planet, we can get to this wooden structure and use it to jump on top of the tree. This entire tree is a bunch of slopes, but thankfully slopes are just kinda optional in Mario Galaxy. By simply holding the direction you're sliding, you can jump and spin again, allowing you to hold back and move further up. Repeating this allows us to get to the top of the tree and turn around, and by doing that, we can slide down onto our belly and gain a ton of speed. Using this speed, we can just barely get a wall jump off on the next tree over, and after slope climbing up to the top, we just skip basically the entire level. I actually got this trick in only 2 attempts, but that's only because I played Galaxy a very unhealthy amount. This is very tough to do, especially with the camera freaking out like this, so I wouldn't recommend it unless you're a speedrunner or it looks like fun to you for some reason. Failure means climbing the entire main planet again, which is super tedious, so practice with save states if you have them available. I certainly wish I did. Trouble on the tower must be beaten without launch stars and without activating the windmill. Avoiding the launch star is as simple as doing the first part of Honeyhive Skip again, but with an awful camera. Climbing an inactive windmill is a lot trickier. These platforms are high enough so that not even a triple jump gets close, so I had to use these awkward wall jumps to scale it. I jumped over to the other side, somehow landed on the blade, and jumped up to the top from there. After defeating the most pathetic Mario boss of all time, I grabbed the star and moved on to Big Bad Bugaboom. This challenge is our first repeat, no grounded jumps allowed. There's probably a ton of different ways to get through this, but don't fall into the trap I did of trying to use the bee mushroom up this hill. There's no way to start flying without jumping first, meaning that even with the power-up, I had no way out of here. Instead, I walked over to the right side of the planet, awkwardly spun myself up onto this block, and let the bubble launch me over to this platform. From here, a simple wall jump can get us into the cave, but after that we have to somehow get into the launch star. My strategy was to fall off the ledge, spin, wall jump, and pray I got enough backwards momentum to activate it. After this, the level is basically over. Just abuse the bee mushroom's flight and these really useful dandelions to defeat Bugaboom. After finishing Honeyhive, I jumped into the smaller galaxies of the Terrace, starting with Loop-de-Loop Galaxy. Here I had to finish the race in less than a minute, and while I got it on my first try, it was a nail-biter. Next up is Flip Switch Galaxy, and here I had to hold the A button the entire time. While obviously I can't jump this way, holding A significantly increases drift with your spin, making this the easiest star I've attempted so far. The challenge for Megaleg's moon is to climb on top of Megaleg before he's activated. This is super easy and a ton of fun to mess around with. Just triple jump off the launch star cage and the moon's massive gravity field will pull you in. It's almost creepy to climb Megaleg like this with the foreboding music and lack of motion, but once you're done messing around, you can simply walk to where you're supposed to land and start the boss fight proper. Bowser Jr. even turns to look at you if you're not centered, which is hilarious. Also, these bullet bills were unbelievably nice to me here. Look at this! With the first Bowser stage clear, the fountain is unlocked, and first up is Polestar Path. Here we can't collect star bits, and shockingly, this is one of the hardest challenges in this video. The cursor picks up star bits automatically, but just pointing away from the screen won't work since you need the cursor to use the pull stars. This means very carefully maneuvering around them and praying you don't grab one from super far away when you can barely see. Some pull stars can be skipped, which helps a lot, especially with these pull star planets towards the end, but the second to last planet is hard for an entirely different reason. I have no idea why, but star bits just don't stop raining down here, and this led to some super close calls on my successful run. Thankfully though, I saved all the toads and collected the star after 20 minutes of total attempts. I feel your pain, Seamycraft. I'm so sorry you had to go through an entire game of this. Next is Camella's airship attack, and here no spinning is allowed. Launch stars and shells are still fair game though. There's a pretty simple long jump to do at the start, and throwing shells in the air is basically impossible without spinning, but this level is pretty easy up until the boss fight. Because we can't spin to pull the shells in, the only option is to wait for them to start bouncing around, which is really boring and tedious. Eventually though, I took her down and grabbed the star. For Terrantox's Tangled Web, I could only use 2 sling pods, which made both the boss and the lead up to him way harder. I had to make a bunch of awkward triple jumps to skip these sling pods outside, and the boss fight itself was honestly way more fun with only a single pod. I started by carefully breaking all these rocks so they wouldn't get in the way during phase 2. Then I chose my one pod, the one with the green toad. Since he stands there for the rest of the fight, it's super easy to remember which one to pick. After nearly a 5-minute battle that usually takes about a minute and a half, I grabbed the star. Next I decided to talk to the Hungry Luma outside the terrace. I'm sorry, you want 400 star bits? I don't know the nutritional value of this stuff, but 400 in your little body can't be healthy. Clearly this Luma has an eating disorder, and I'm not helping at all, but I want another star, damn it, so I guess I'll oblige. Oh my god, it's worse than I thought. He literally turned into a planet made of candy. Well, at the very least, he left us the most enjoyable challenge in this video. We have to hold the A button the entire time, and this makes what is normally a super simple level extremely complex and difficult. The only way to gain height is to walk into one of the holes and spin, but thankfully since we're holding A, we have a ton of mobility while doing this. These electric gates are super irritating, but taking damage while above the platforms will allow you to slip by unscathed, and there are plenty of coins to help you heal, so damage isn't an issue either. What is an issue is the entire final section. After reaching the cake, it seems like you have no way up, but luckily enough these toads are in just the right spot for us to bounce on them. I'm sure they won't mind, they're not real. Use homing ground pounds to gain momentum, and just like that, the star is secured. I adore this challenge and highly recommend it to anyone who loves Galaxy. After that, I went back to the fountain and took on Battle Rock Galaxy. The unfortunate thing about this video concept is that no matter how hard you try, there's inevitably going to be some missions that just don't have good challenges to work with, and this is obviously one of those. The best I could come up with is skipping these blue star chips at the start. It's one of the most precise speedrun skips in the game, but it's pretty easy since there's no penalty for failing the jump. I got it after a couple minutes. Breaking into the Battle Rock is next, but halfway through the level I noticed another Hungry Luma. He only wanted 30 star bits, which is a bit excessive but still far healthier than the last one, so I gave in and fed him. He was so happy about this that he turned into a literal garbage dump. Okay, I know I'm reusing this joke from an old video, but come on, this shit's hilarious. As for the challenge, I only used 3 of the 4 bomb dispensers. This was a little harder, but still not that bad. It only took about 5 minutes of attempts. I was about to jump back into Battle Rock, but I noticed a prankster comment in Space Junk, so I decided to go there instead. Here I had to collect all 60 coins, but the timer is so absurdly generous that on my very first attempt I had almost 30 seconds left. That's pathetic. 3 minutes would have been plenty of time for this star, Nintendo. I was in a comment mood after that, so I went back to the terrace for Dino Piranha Speedrun. Here I flipped the original challenge on its head. Now I have to defeat every enemy aside from these chomps. Again though, 4 minutes? Nintendo, most of your audience doesn't even last that long during sex, so I have no idea why you think this would be a good amount. Anyway, yeah, I beat this first try, even with checking this orange pipe to see if there were enemies in there. We only have 3 challenges left for part 1, so let's do the 2 mini galaxies in the fountain and the one outside to wrap it up. For Hurry Scurry Galaxy, I had to step on every green tile without pressing the A button. It's a routing puzzle and I adore those, but it's not a really fun one, sadly. It just kinda devolved into running around aimlessly until all the tiles were gone. This happened though. For Rolling Green Galaxy, I couldn't defeat any enemies or collect any coins. This was pretty easy since there's so much room on the course, but there's this one coin here I could not avoid. If anyone thinks it's possible to land on these metal bars any other way, please let me know, but until then, this challenge is 1 coin only instead of coinless. Lastly for today is my least favorite level in the game, Sling Pod Galaxy. There are 11 Sling Pods in this galaxy, and for the challenge, I'm only going to use 4 of them. How is this possible? That took over a half hour, and the worst part is it may be possible in 3 with a really precise shot from the first one I landed in, but no way in hell am I doing that again. This took more than twice as long as the other 19 challenges, so I guess this is a great stopping point for part 1. And that's going to do it for part 1 of this super experimental video idea. Thank you guys so much for watching. I was honestly blown away by the performance of the Mario Sunshine video. I never thought I'd get over 1,000 views on something, but I did, and I want to keep going with it. Want to continue to grow and become a better content creator over time. So if you guys have any criticisms, positive or negative, please let me know down below, and I'll see you guys in a couple days for the next one.